Guys, it's Coach Yana, and today I'm going to be telling you some reasons why your child might be pulling away from you. And that might be at the ages between 16 and 22 or a little bit younger, but I primarily work with that age range 16 to 22. Now, what qualifies me to talk about this? Well, I am the founder and CEO of the Laptop Life Coach, which is the premier personal development brand for young people ages 7 to 11 and 16 to 22. So, one of the main reasons that I've discovered why young people start to pull away and hide things from their parents is because you parents, you love them so much, but you're so critical. Sometimes parents are so emotionally charged within their own selves, and because they know all the bad things that can happen from different decisions and different mistakes, they hound on their children. As soon as the child tells them, look, I did X, Y, and Z, the parent has lost a gasket and is going off or giving a long lecture or being judgmental or being hypercritical, being insensitive and borderline rude. If every time you brought up a challenge to someone or you brought up a problem or you brought up anything, if that person was yelling at you or judging you or criticizing you, eventually any level-headed person would stop telling that person stuff. And it's not always on purpose. Sometimes it's because parents, you know what these life decisions can lead to down the line. So you're trying to protect your child. So it's like the mom when she sees the kid running with scissors, and instead of calmly taking the scissors, freaks out, why are you running with scissors? To a child, they don't recognize that you're nervous and you're scared because they're in danger. All they hear is, oh, mommy or daddy is yelling at me. And that's what they receive, right? Because you are, in effect, yelling at them, but you're concerned about their safety, but they're not picking it up as that. They're hearing it as, oh, great, she's yelling again. She's losing her stuff again. Oh, great. So then your children will stop telling you things because they feel like you can't handle it. I go more into this in one of my articles on my LinkedIn newsletter, which is called the Executive Mom Pod Project, but I can go into a little bit more here too. But yes, a lot of times parents are so reactionary and like you're doing what was done to you. And because you know, oh, well, if such and such runs with scissors, they might fall and poke an eye out and do all of these things. So instead of explaining that, your reaction goes into all the what could have, and the emotions take over. But that is not going to work long term with your children because they are going to say, well, and I'd rather not tell you because you're going to react or you're going to criticize. Or if they do something and the first thing you say is why they did it wrong and how they should have done it better. And I can't believe you would do something like this, and just judgy. Eventually, people don't want to hear that. People don't like to be around negativity. So if you are the person that's the child perceives as negative, even if you think you're doing it out of love, of course, they're going to stop telling you stuff because you're always reacting. That's why it's important to learn how to respond. What I do with my students, especially in the one-on-ones from 16 to 22, is I listen to them and I guide them. I start out by letting them know I am not telling you what to do. However, I'm going to tell you all the possible downsides or all the possible upsides that I'm aware of and perhaps you didn't even consider, but that could happen should you choose to do X, Y, and Z. But again, I'm not telling you what to do. And I also tell them I'm not going to judge you if you do decide to do X, Y, and Z. However, these are all of the possibilities that you may not have considered that can happen to you should you choose to do X, Y, and Z. And I've earned the right with my young people to do that because they trust me, because they know me, because they know no matter what they tell me, I am not going to have a visceral reaction. Once they turn 18, I'm not going to tell your parents, because you're 18 now. I'm just going to be there, listen, and guide, right? Another thing that I also do so that it keeps the lines of communication open is I tell them my own personal stories, not stories from some West Bubba I don't know that I never met before, not just cautionary tales from a book. I tell them my own lived experiences. I tell them lived experiences from other people that I know firsthand. Because when they recognize that, oh, wait a minute, even Coach Yana, it depends on who they are, or Miss Ayana, whatever. Even I sometimes have messed up. Not even sometimes, I messed up a lot. That's why I do what I do now with my professional development brand, to make sure that the next generation, yeah, they'll mess up, but hopefully they won't make the same mistakes I made, because then they can learn from me to make better decisions. You feel me? And so when because they look up to me, because I have a very impressive college resume, and I start out with the young ones in the college programs and high school. I start out by telling them all the things that I did that eventually led me to getting a full ride my senior year, because I flat out said to my school, I brought so much money to this university. The least you can do is give me a full ride. I said it much more professionally, much more politely, but that was what it was, and it was true. So I did end up getting a full ride my senior year, because I knew I brought so much money into that school, and I was a cheerleader. I joined a sorority. I was Miss Senior. I graduated in the top 10% of my class. I started the American Marketing Association. I was in a documentary. I created a video that helped them win HBCU of the year. Like, the list goes on and 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 on. So these young people know I'm not just talking out the side of my neck about things I don't understand. I was on top of that, because young people, everybody, they love popularity. I was that girl on campus. Everybody knew me, so I was also popular. So everything that these young girls want to do, I already did, or I know somebody who did it. So they look up to me because they want to do what I did, so they listen to me. And with that in mind, I'm vulnerable enough to tell them when I messed up, because then that humanizes me. That brings into their mind, oh, even Coach Yana did this? I had one student recently, she asked me something, and she was like, well, how do you do this? And I told her, I was like, girl, I don't know either. So when you find out, you let me know, okay? Because I don't know how to do that either, because I'm still growing. I'm still developing. And she was like, oh, like, you don't know how to do this? Like there's something not wrong with me because I don't know how to do it? Or even Coach Yana, as great, as cool as she is, because that's how they think. As much as she's done, she still doesn't know how to do this thing yet. And it humanizes me. So I'm very vulnerable with my students. When they ask me questions, I sugarcoat it a little bit, depending on how old they are, or depending on who they are. I might, shift the details some. But I am very, very, very vulnerable and honest with them, because honesty is what builds those communication lines. And the more vulnerable and honest you are about the mistakes you've made in the past, about the lessons you learned, about the hard reality of life, they will respect you more and they will listen to you more, because they know, oh, wait a minute, you already don't judge me. And I already put you on this pedestal, because that's what young people do. They already have me on this pedestal. But wait a minute, she's not perfect? She messed up? Even Coach Yana did this stupid thing? And she wouldn't do it again? Okay. And I always tell them, I want you to be better than me. I'm not, and I tell them, I'm nothing special. I just saw what I wanted to do and I put in the work to do it. But you have the capability of being more than I ever could. You have the capability because you have me in your corner rooting for you, period. Regardless of what else you got going on, I'm here for you. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the honest thing. So now, sometimes even the ones 16 to 22, because I have multiple clients, so I can say this without pointing who it is, they will tell me things that they would never tell their parents and that they should not be asking their friends. Why? Because I listen to them. Why? Because I don't yell at them. I don't react. Even if what they're telling me in my brain, I might be freaking out and flipping out internally, to them, they don't see that. They see the calm me, because they need to know that they have someone in their corner that's not judging them, that's not going to yell at them, that's not going to curse them out, that's not going to criticize them, that's not going to try to course correct them. I just listen and I answer questions. And I give them examples of what can happen. So if your child has been pulling away from you, first, do something that they like to do, okay? Because depending on how old they are, you might have to do some work to regain that trust. Depending on how much you've reacted, you might have to do some work to build that trust with them, right? So start out by doing things that they like to do. Go hang out, just you and them. Then Listen to them and ask them questions about how they're doing, open-ended questions, right? Once you've earned the right to do that, because you have to earn the right again. If they've pulled away from you, it's for a reason. So sometimes you can even ask, why don't you talk to me anymore? Do you think I overreact? And then be adult enough to interpret and understand the critique that they give you. And instead of lashing out at them, listen to what they're saying and adjust, because you as the adult have to recognize what is more important, your ego or preserving the relationship with your child. And you might be coming from a place of you want to keep them safe, or, they're a child, but you wouldn't do that because you wouldn't even be on this video if you're one of those parents. But you have to sometimes humble yourself to recognize, okay, what is the goal of this? The goal of this is for my child to trust me and tell me things again. So perhaps if they tell me that I overreact, instead of defending myself as to why I overreact, maybe I should stop overreacting. That's the first thing. Then be vulnerable with them and be honest. And if you tried X, Y, and Z, whether that's a substance or whatever else, because it gets real when they get to college, that 18, 19, those conversations that I have with these students are real, and they're about certain things that I'm not going to say here, because they need to have someone who's been there, done that, and can tell them, if you do this, this is the bad thing that can happen to you. Not just this particular thing. Have you ever heard of blue waffle? There's all these other things that can happen to you outside of what you think. They need that. So if you can be honest and say, well, back in your day, I did do X, Y, and Z, they'll be like, oh, okay. And then you tell them that experience. I've discovered, especially for my girls, at that 18-year-old age group, they love hearing my stories. So I'll tell them stories about drama. I'll tell them stories about trauma as well. I'll tell them stories about mistakes. I'll tell them stories about wins. They love to hear what I did when. So being vulnerable, being honest, and being open with them will get you so much further. And the more vulnerable, granted, like I said, sometimes I will soften the story depending on, what we're talking about. And sometimes I will pull from other people's stories, because you also have to know where each student is to determine how much you're going to share of what and how you're going to piece it together. But that comes with time. And then again, just be open and honest with them. They learn, and you have to remember that they want to do the right thing. Young people want to make good decisions. So if you model to them what you want them to be, so you model that behavior first and then hold them to that standard. That's another thing. You can't be a hypocrite with young people. That's why I read so much. That's why I work out. That's why I hold myself to such a high standard, because I cannot, in good conscience, ask my students, when the last time you read a book? If I haven't read a book in months, because young people can sense out nonsense. So if I'm telling them, make sure you're reading, make sure you're working out, make sure you're taking good care of yourself and waking up in the morning, and getting ready, and they look at me and I look busted, dusted, and disgusted, they're going to be like, Coach Yana, you're a hypocrite. You don't even do these things, but you want me to do it? So you can't, also as a parent, you can't be a hypocrite. If you want your child to respond and not react, you have to respond to them. If you want them to listen to you and respect you, you have to listen to them and respect them. And you have to be a respectable person. You can't hold your young person to a higher standard than you hold yourself. That just doesn't make any sense. Real recognize real, period. So those are some things that I would say. Be open and vulnerable with them. Hold yourself to a higher standard than you're holding the young people. Respond instead of react. When they tell you something, listen to them, guide them, and help them make decisions. That's how you make and build critical thinking skills, because you're not going to be on college campus with them. Okay? So you have to guide them so that they can make good decisions. All right? My name is Coach Yana. If you guys, or Miss Ayana or Ayana, depending on who you are, if you need help and your young daughter is between the ages of 18 and 22, or if your daughter or son is between the ages of 7 to 11, then visit the Laptop Life Coach I, again, am Ayana, the founder and CEO of the Laptop Life Coach, which is the premier personal development brand for young people, helping them make better decisions so that way they can live better lives earlier on. All right. So if you need help, also, if you're a mother-daughter relationship and I've worked with your daughter for at least 4 weeks, then you can apply. It's by invite only, but you can apply to the Legacy Bridge program, which is a monthly mother-daughter communication session where you guys will meet virtually, of course, and you guys can actually work on your relationship, because the mother-daughter relationship is so vital. It's so complex, and there's so many things that sometimes you need a third party or a big sister to work with. And I already have to know your daughter, because then it's kind of pointless. Like, if I don't know them and I don't really know you either, then we're not going to make any progress. But if the daughter feels like they have an ally in me, they'll be more open and honest because I already know them. And then for you, it's like someone who can help them understand where you're coming from and bridge that communication boundary. So in order to start that off, though, I would have had to already work with your daughter for a minimum of 4 weeks. And then, of course, as we continue to grow, we'll have more self-paced options for that age group of 16 to 22. Once again, my name is Coach Yana, the founder and CEO of the the Laptop Life Coach. Say that 7 times fast. Of the Laptop Life Coach, the premier personal development brand for young people. My name, again, is Coach Yana, and as always, I approve this message. Happy communicating.